Hi, I'm Steve and I've been living in Hanoi for the past 2 years. I've become fascinated by the legacy and influences left by the French following their ruling of Vietnam from 1887 until 1954. From the architecture through to the cuisine, the results are all around us. I would like to guide you through Hanoi to view some of these legacies. Architecture. In certain cities, most notably Dalat, Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, and Hanoi, there are still wonderful examples of French architecture with their high arches, balconies, columns and pleasing symmetries. Some of the more remarkable buildings are the Hanoi Opera House, the Notre Dame Central Basilica of Saigon, and many colonial villas and mansions in the hills surrounding Dalat. Even today, rich Vietnamese still build villas with French architectural features, whereas government buildings tend to be more austere. Linguistics. While China has undoubtedly had more influence over the Vietnamese language, anyone with even a rudimentary knowledge of French will hear familiar words in Vietnam. The words for cheese, neckties, butter, bread, father, pa, beer and many others are all phonetic copies of French words. Besides sharing words, Vietnamese as you see it today only looks the way it does because French colonial authorities promoted the Romanized version created by Alexandre de Rhodes, a Jesuit missionary who also helped to bring about the next major cultural influence. Okay, thank you. I hope. My sister at the minute's in America. Yeah. I'm in Hanoi. She's in America. San Francisco. Anybody heard of San Francisco? Infrastructure. The colonial French, behind their fastidious notion of spreading civilization to their colonies, did leave behind modern infrastructure which Vietnam still uses to this day. The famous Reunification Express, the railway line between Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, was originally built under French rule. Many of the roads and bridges in Vietnam were also first built under French supervision. Probably the most famous example is the Long Bien Bridge in Hanoi, formerly the Port d'Orme Bridge. One unsung hero of the French infrastructure is the sanitary system they left behind, especially in Ho Chi Minh City. Without French infrastructure, this city of almost 10 million would have been much smellier. Religion. Catholics in Vietnam make up approximately 7% of the population. Holidays like Easter and Christmas, while not nearly as widely celebrated as they are in the West, have their own Vietnamese traditions. It's common to see people wearing a cross around their neck, and many families have an altar to Jesus in their home, near their ancestor shrine. Vietnam is officially atheist, but the government doesn't interfere with people practicing their faith these days. Also, some of the most famous buildings in Vietnam are churches. Lotus flowers, very important flower in Vietnam. This is now the season for them, and you see pretty girls with these everywhere in Hanoi at the moment. Cyclos. Long since replaced by bicycles and motorbikes, you can still find these holdouts of the French colonial days in the touristy areas around the country. Near the Citadel in Hue, District 1 in Ho Chi Minh City, and in Hanoi's Old Quarter. They conjure images of French aristocracy chauffeured around Saigon, fanning themselves under the scorching midday sun. They're a strange reminder of a different era. Cuisine. Many staple foods in Vietnam are French dishes modified to include local ingredients. Omelettes, baguettes, croissants, and anything fried in butter. Certain ingredients, cauliflower, zucchini, pate, and potatoes, among others, were introduced to Vietnam during the colonial years. Some dishes arose from the demands of French authorities and their families, while others came from Vietnamese cooks incorporating their new ingredients. Much of what we know as distinctly Vietnamese cuisine has French influences.